Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. The results show when the athletes hit the field. A very special appearance on this Friday because we're off on MLK Day without a show. With us right now from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and the Big Mac blog on DFWOT, it is Mac Engel. How you doing, sir?
Good, Bryan. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank you very much for your flexibility and willingness to do this. But after last night and the way this week has gone since we talked on Monday, I couldn't bear the thought of going 2 long weeks without talking to you about the soap opera that is going on in sports these days.
The Lance Armstrong thing has at least been on the table for a while. The interview with Oprah, Her Highness, last night was obviously new, but it is amazing to think that Lance Armstrong's apology, mea culpa, and sit down with Oprah got bumped. Oprah got bumped by a fake dead girlfriend.
What else was going to bump it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really good question. I don't know. I can't think of, someone asked me this the other day, could you think of a story as bizarre as this one? And
no.
there have been stories of imposters before, of people lying about maybe their gender. Remember this story a long time ago during the Boston Marathon with a woman who won the race. It was Rosie something or another. I can't remember her name.
Rosie Ruiz.
Like, that's a pretty bizarre story,
Yep.
Although that one was uncovered relatively quickly. This one, and Randy Galloway in our paper wrote it this morning, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. I think where this story became so amazing is that isn't that he just made up a girlfriend. I remember when I was a kid and I made up a girlfriend, but that's what kids do.
Yeah, you sit in the corner and talk to your imaginary friend,
Right, absolutely. Or you tell your friends the picture that you have in your wallet is of your girlfriend who lives in California, and then you see her during the summers or something.
But were you 20 when you did it, though?
But when yeah, right. And this one was so amazing because you've got to think as one of the best college football players in the country on a campus that worships football, this guy has to make up a girlfriend?
Yes, thank you.
So it says to me, I've said this a couple of times, it says to me one of two things. The first one is, Manti Te'o looked around the women at South Bend and in Notre Dame and said, you know what, I would rather make up having a girlfriend and have dead one than to have sex with any of these co-eds.
Which is a real possibility.
It's very possible. I grew up in Indiana, I've been to South Bend, I've been to Notre Dame, and you cannot necessarily rule out that scenario.
I'll take your word for that one.
Okay. And then the other one is, and this is far more serious and much more theoretical and hypothetical, is that you, at some point, and it has been bantered about, you do have to kick around, maybe the guy's gay.
Well,
and he used this as a cover story to cover that up. I mean, no football player has ever come out, no major football player has ever come out in a Division I college program or an NFL team and been out while he played, because the culture doesn't really say that they would allow for it. There's too much machismo, there's too much homophobia, any of that stuff. And despite all the advances that we've made culturally and in terms of things like that, and acceptance towards homosexuals, the professional athletics and athletics in general has not been one where you can sit there and say, oh yeah, we're cool with that. That hadn't happened. So no one knows. It's his business, and at the end of the day, I don't care either way. I am just fascinated by this cover story, and I do not blame any members of the media who fell for it, because as Randy said, this is what I was going to make, the point I was going to make a second ago. As Randy said, once the guy said that the girlfriend was dead, I can't imagine it would cross anybody's mind to think that someone would be making that up.
Well, I made the comment, I talked to somebody else about this, and I'm old enough, unfortunately, to recall back when we trusted our politicians, and then we started questioning motives back during the Vietnam War with LBJ, and then, of course, Watergate broke, and Nixon changed the whole game, and from that point on, we never trusted anything that came out of an elected official's mouth. This is a first for college football. I mean, we've never seen somebody perpetrate such a fraud Whether he's a victim or whether he made it up himself, we've never experienced this on the college football landscape. And I think that until you get burned once, then you automatically take these stories at face value and say, well, why would he lie to us? But obviously, what we're finding out now is that college football players are just as nuts as politicians are. Or narcissistic, or
only he knows. Like Lance Armstrong did it for obvious reasons.
Sure,
he loved being Lance Armstrong, and he knew that to tell the truth about taking steroids during his career was going to kill his chances of maintaining a celebrity lavish, worshipped lifestyle.
There's an end game there, though. I mean, he did it to win. I mean, what was Te'o's motive here, I mean, or what was the hoax that if he was a victim, what was the end game? I mean, she killed herself off supposedly at the beginning of the season before he was positioned as a first-round draft pick and a Heisman, candidate. And I mean, and they didn't extort money. So, what did they, and then you hear this stuff about catfishing, and they do it just for the sick sport of doing it?
I don't get it.
Man, it's a strange generation if that's true.
I don't get it. I especially with a guy who is as popular. I understand people why they do it in order to elicit sympathy, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess. The thing that I don't get is that he had everything.
Yeah.
I mean, he had everything.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have a clue what more all he did was cost himself money if he lied and made this up.
There's no doubt.
Unless,
because anybody who watched that Alabama game said, okay, well, I'm not so sure about this. What? And then 2 weeks later, you hear the story about it. You're like, okay, now I really don't know about this because, teams are aware that when you draft guys, you've got to be aware of the media. You've got to be aware of the scrutiny. You've got to be aware of the attention. So that's a black mark. If this guy was, guaranteed slam dunk, the best player ever and all that stuff,
yeah.
and he just had, then they're going to roll the dice and be a little bit more willing to roll the dice and go high in the draft. Now, you've got to think, especially at this time of the year when all players do is get worse, because all they do is get dissected and criticized and basically bagged on for what they aren't, then you've got to think that Manti Te'o's draft status is going to take a hit, which it should.
Hey, listen,
only he knows. That's the only thing is, Bryan, only he knows, and the sooner he can get out, he can't. Obviously, he can't get in front of it. I'm sure he's embarrassed.
Well, you said it. You used the analogy Monday. You said Andy Pettit. He needs to get out here now. He can't wait. The longer this goes on with questions being asked, the worse it looks all the time. I mean, today you got the story where apparently he found out about this on December 6th, but he was still telling the stories on December 8th, and then there was a published newspaper interview on December 10th where he just kept on going with the lie. Notre Dame knew about it in December 6th. They went right through the BCS game and the Heisman Trophy and kept playing the game too. So, Notre Dame, I think, is complicit in this thing too.
They are. And the best thing that anybody could do, as we saw last night, and I think everybody who's been in a position where, I think anybody who's ever been in a position where they've lied about something knows, ultimately the truth is going to have its day, and the truth is undefeated, right? And
so far,
Theo would be better off. Because there's no spin on it now. As we saw last night with what Lance Armstrong did with Oprah, there's no spin. He's just like, here's everything.
Yeah.
And Theo, I think, would have possibly a little bit more sympathy given his youth. And what sounds to me like what at one point was a pretty naive young man when he came to Notre Dame. This is not a young man. This is not a naive kid anymore. He's not.
No.
He knew what he was doing, and I would assume, there's got to be some embarrassment involved in this revelation, and anybody would understand that.
If there's not, then what we're looking at right now are two of the most blatant cases of narcissism that you have ever seen in your life. I mean, I think
we saw that with Armstrong.
Yeah,
sure.
No question. But I'm thinking if all this was for Manti Te'o is that he's just a major attention whore, you know, which in some cases, looking at some of this stuff and hearing some of the stories that some of his teammates are reportedly saying about him now, that he knew about it all along. They knew that the girl didn't exist, and they just went right along with it too. I mean, that's just sick.
I keep saying it, and I'll keep saying it. I don't get this one. The Lance Armstrong, like you said, there was an end game. There was an image to protect. There was money to be made.
Yeah.
You could certainly see why he kept up with it. Now, I don't understand why he was suing everybody and their brother.
Well, that's the narcissism thing. I mean, it got to the point, I think, where he lied to himself and everybody else so much he started to believe it.
I wonder about that. You know, the interview that he did with last night, the first segment that aired, indicates to me that he always knew. I think what he did was that he always knew it was a load. He always knew it. The thing that I think would surprise me, and the reason I say that is because he admitted at one point where he thought it was a level playing field because everybody was cheating.
Yeah,
he's right. The statistics bear it out. Anybody at the top was dirty. That's just the way the era was. Not justifying it, but it was this insane idea that how dare you speak out against me. And then he would go on the attack, and I'm like, good God, man, just deny it and go home. You don't have to sit there and countersue and try to destroy the lives and the reputations of these people who are speaking out against you. And I think it speaks so much. If Lance Armstrong treated his teammates and the people around him better, I do not think you would see the reaction that you are today. I don't think it's a coincidence that Tyler Hamilton, George Hinckley, all these different guys who've come out to speak out against him because they think this guy has treated them like trash. And I think that is the part of it that is going to be the hardest part for people to get over. Not that he cheated and won 7 Tour de France titles. People will get over that because everybody who follows cycling knows that was going on. It's the part that he thought he was different than everybody else, and he was more special.
That's the narcissism. You know?
Totally.
Narcissism.
And I think that he was never going to win that interview because I've read the comments and the criticisms of how he conducted himself. I saw when Mark McGuire cried in Bob Costas' lap, and people made fun of him there and said, that's not believable, it's too late, blah, 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 blah. Those things are no-win situations at all, and that much of it is for certain. And that Armstrong was going to fail this interview regardless of how he handled it.
Well, the one thing that I did think that I admired him is at the very outset, he said at the very beginning of the interview, I know this is too late. You know, that's the only thing about that I thought was admirable is he says, I know this is too late. I've waited too long. I realize that this is probably going to do me no good at all. You know, I mean, at least he had the sense to say that. I thought, okay, well, at least he's being honest with himself now because it is too late. I mean, you let this go on for so long that, you know, I mean, you're dead in the water. You know, that's all there is. Now, let me ask the questions that I asked on my Facebook page, and I want your answers to them. Do you believe at all that Lance Armstrong is at all contrite or sorry for what he did?
I think, do I think he is contrite and sorry for what he did? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but is he sorry because he got caught, or
that's always the question. Are you sorry because you got caught, or are you sorry because you did it?
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like, you know, I mean, when he would say the things, you know, he would talk about scary.
Yeah, and that's when
you know?
I think that's the part of it that surprised me is that he was numb to the lying of it, that he didn't care. And so, do I think he was sorry that he did it and sorry he got caught? Probably a little bit of both, Bryan, but I would say the way he was talking and the reality of it is he's probably more sorry that he got caught.
Okay.
I do think, however, I can't imagine it was easy, and I'm sure it was humiliating to have to apologize to all those people at Livestrong and his foundation and so many people who believed and supported in him. I think that would have affected him. And I think the individual things, and I'm a little surprised, although I'm sure there's a legal aspect to it, how he didn't want to touch some of the individual accusers' stories in terms of his conversations with them. I understand the privacy element that he was trying to honor, but at the same time, two of those women who accused him, he really kind of tiptoed around those apologies. And even, in fact, one of them, he sounded a little defiant. But I kind of do think he's, I mean, at this stage, I want to believe this guy's not just a total psychopath. I mean, and he's got some real remorse and some regret about what he did, because the reality of it is he didn't hurt me any. I never believed him in the first place.
Right.
I always thought the fact that he defeated cancer and got on a bike, that in itself is inspirational. That was good enough for me. I never thought he won. I never thought he won those races clean, because I didn't think anybody was winning those races clean. That was me. The people that he hurt are the people that he was trying to sue and to destroy their lives. Those are the people that need to get that. Those are the people that he needs. He didn't need, me anything. I don't care. He needs to apologize to those people and show real contrition and probably pay them a lot of money.
Do you ever see a time where the American public forgives and forgets with Lance Armstrong?
Oh, sure, yeah. Good God, this is America. And seriously.
He's going to have a reality show with the Kardashians in 2 years, man.
Right, no kidding. I mean, crying out loud, Pete Rose has a reality show with some, Playboy model that he's going to marry. It's humiliating. Now, I don't think Armstrong would stoop that low for money. Pete would do anything for $10. But yeah, this culture has proven time and time and time again. We love celebrities, we love fame, we love apologies, and we love a comeback. And you could see it all over the map.
Well, did he do anything last night that helped to repair his image at all?
I think the one thing that he offered, and I was kind of intrigued by it, was this idea with, I would like to work with cycling about, basically trying to go after, trying to be proactive in ways to prevent cheating and steroid use and performance-enhancing drugs from ruining the sport the way he has. I believe Lance Armstrong loves cycling, and I believe that I do believe there's always a shot for redemption. No, he knows this. He said it. This is on him forever. And how we look at Lance Armstrong today will be different than we looked at him 5 or 10 years ago. For a lot of people, not really me that much different, but that's just me. I always thought he was doing it. So to me, and I said this earlier on a different radio show, that the thing that I kind of see is that there is an opportunity, if he's sincere about it and if he is welcomed back, for Lance Armstrong to be kind of a Frank Abagnale kind of character. And Frank Abagnale was the guy who wrote the book Catch Me If You Can, where he'd been an imposter, and they made a movie about him with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks.
Great movie. Where
after he got caught, after years of avoiding justice, he gets caught, and the FBI says, okay, part of your penalty is that you're going to sit here and help us and catch imposters and catch counterfeiters. And he was really good at it. And he did that, and that became sort of his life's work. I think there's an opportunity there for Lance Armstrong to make a difference in that area. To ask him right now is ridiculous. You can't. He's got, I'm sure, a number of civil suits that he's going to have to deal with.
Oh.
But, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get crushed. And I think the other thing, too, is people are going to want to see him pay. It's like Michael Vick or any of these guys. You want to see him pay. But eventually, people are going to see the good in him and the fact that he did beat cancer, and he did inspire people to believe that they could get back on a bike and live with or defeat a disease and have a life. What I don't think anybody's going to get over, and nor should they, is the fact the guy was no different than anybody else in his era as a cyclist.
Pretty nasty sport.
Sorry?
Pretty dirty sport.
Yeah, it was. It was a really, really dirty sport. And I hope... Cycling's a niche sport anyways. It's not like it was ever going to become football. It's just too bad that the image that he so carefully cultivated and ruthlessly protected was a fraud.
Okay, now I just saw this statement made, and I want to see if you agree with this. Do you think Lance would have been better off just continuing to lie till he died?
No, I think he did the right thing. I mean, it's like the Barry Bonds thing. And Bonds I could see hanging on until I could see Bonds digging in and hanging on.
Oh, yeah.
And just giving a giant middle finger to everybody.
Like he has his whole life.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, talk about us. I mean, silver spoon kid that's basically, done it his way his whole life, which is fine. But Bonds has never tried to sit there and be some public icon and a hero. Barry Bonds served one purpose and one purpose only, and that was Barry Bonds. And, Barry never apologized about who he was. He never did.
No.
He's like, yep, this is what I'm doing. The hell with the rest of you.
See you later.
Okay? So for Armstrong, though, for me, yeah, I think it's always better the fact that he came out and said, I can't imagine his lawyers thought it was a good idea. That's just a guess. But I do think it was better for him and for everybody that he comes clean and he tells everything about everything and he takes the blame and just owns up to the responsibility. It sucks, but,
hey.
I think he's better off for it, and I think cycling and sports are better off the fact that at least we know now and we kind of know what we were dealing with and kind of move on.
Well, that's all we got for today. I'm sure there'll be another scandal here in the next 24 hours that we can look forward to,
Right. The day's not over yet, so I expect you to be calling me before 10.
I love what you said, though. I posted it. I said, maybe the Cowboys could possibly draft Manti Te'o, and your response was?
I can't remember. What did I say?
Basically, great. I'd love to meet his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah, that was it. See, I mean, if the Cowboys don't care about winning and they care about being entertaining, that would be entertaining.
Speaking of attention whores.
Right, yeah, absolutely. I want a Manti Te'o girlfriend jersey.
I've got a picture.
Yeah, I've got a picture.
I've got a picture on my Facebook. Somebody posted it. It was of a T-shirt. And the T-shirt, let me see if I can find it real quick before
Is it play like you've got a dead girlfriend today or something like that?
Play like you had a fake girlfriend die today.
Yeah, that's it. That was it. I like that. Well, that's my intention for the day. I'm going to play like I had a fake girlfriend die today.
Aim high, baby.
Right? Amen.
Mac, we appreciate it as always. We'll look forward to talking to you a week from Monday, okay?
Okay, Brian. Have a great weekend.
Great talking to you. Mac Engel from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and DFWOT on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.